there's a fourth pillar of DC, and I know exactly who it is. So by this point in time, everybody on planet Earth knows the trinity of DC, the three pillars, as a lot of people say. That would be Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman. If you don't know them, you might have been living under a rock, because they are some of the most popular characters ever. These characters for a really long time have been considered the trinity or the three pillars of DC, pretty much carrying the franchise. But I think there's a fourth pillar now, and I think it's the Flash. First, let's take a look at Batman. So Batman, obviously super popular character, has a lot of really great villains. That's one of the main things about Batman that I like, is his villains. I don't necessarily like him all that much, but I do love his villains and the stories that are told with those villains versus him. He also has a habit of creating legacy, and that's one of the biggest things for continuing the story of Batman, or the myth of Batman, in the DC world. And that legacy falls with his Robins, starting with Dick and moving to him going to Nightwing is fantastic. They become their own heroes, but they're all still tied to that Bat family, and that's something that is huge with a lot of fans who love Batman. We also know that Batman is willing to do whatever it takes to save the world and save the people that he loves. And when it comes down to it, you can always count on Batman to do the right thing. That kind of brings me into Superman. Obviously, Superman's going to do the right thing. I think more recently, the evil Superman has been very overused, like with Injustice and the direction that Zack Snyder was heading. I know the Snyder cultists are going to be at me in the comments, but it's honestly overused, and Superman needs a very bright and optimistic film, and I think that's what we might get with Superman Legacy. But that optimism and the love and care, being this all-powerful being, essentially, and kind of stopping himself from losing control because he knows it could hurt other people, that is such a strong pillar that you see across multiple, if not most, DC characters. They all kind of look up to Superman in that aspect, and he's really carrying the franchise for that optimism. And now we're starting to even get some of his legacy with his children. That's also another character in DC that, you know, when it comes down to it, Superman will sacrifice his own life to save the world or the multiverse or whatever's going on in DC, because sometimes those stories get a little crazy. Finally, let's talk about Wonder Woman. Obviously, she's always going to do what needs to be done. You can definitely count on Wonder Woman. She's going to get the truth out of people with her lasso. She's going to go to the ends of the earth to save the world and save the universe. And she also, again, with the legacy, she has that legacy. Themyscira is such a culturally rich and historically rich island and a group of people, which honestly is kind of dark a little bit if you really know the story behind Themyscira, but that legacy is there, and that's kind of what that culture is all about. Looking back at all these comics and these movies, whatever it might be, animation, these three characters have always been kind of intertwined with each other. They're always helping each other out. They're always at least talking to each other about whatever the issue might be. You even see this in something like Injustice, whenever Nightwing is killed and someone goes to Superman and is like, listen, I know you're on opposite sides of this thing, but Batman needs you. You're his best friend. And that's something that you see with Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman. But I think there's a fourth character that is often within that mix that maybe sometimes you might overlook, and that's the Flash. Now, whether you grew up post-crisis and had Wally West for most of your comic book reading career, I would say, either way, is if it's Barry, if it's Wally, if it's Jay, any of the Flash family, which is huge, by the way, if you have any of the Flash family, they're usually there, and they're always going to be giving villains second chances, and they're all about the optimism and the hope that no matter how far gone you seem to be, you can always turn it around. Again, that ties to Superman, obviously. And then the Flash is also a character, as you very well may know, will make that sacrifice if he needs to save the universe. He's always going to be volunteering if it's like multiple people can make the sacrifice and they're like deciding who, he's always going to raise his hand because he's going to do what's right. Wally's always trying to live up to Barry's name and Barry's ideals. And I think Jeremy Adams has a comic out that's pretty much a homage to Barry from Wally's perspective, and it's a beautifully written comic. It's so good. But Barry's always ready to sacrifice himself for the world, for the multiverse. And Wally really carries that sentiment with him as well. And they're passing that on to their children. And it's a really well written character. While there are a lot of other really popular characters in DC that you could argue, like Nightwing, for example, a lot of people are trying to argue Harley Quinn now, which is strange as the fourth pillar of DC. But I really think the Flash embodies a lot of what the three pillars we've already established. Definitely embodies what those characters embody in his own right, and he kind of adds his own little thing to it. And I really think the Flash, along with his wonderful villains, just like Batman has, if you don't know a lot about the Flash villains, I highly recommend you read up on them because they're really good. They're really fascinating. And Barry's another character like Superman that has to hold back his true potential. The Flash always holds back his true potential, his true power, because he could hurt someone. Not only could he hurt someone, like Superman, the Flash could destroy entire worlds. He could destroy entire timelines because of the nature of his powers. And it's ridiculous. And if you think Superman's faster than the Flash, I can't help you there. But the Flash is immensely powerful and he always holds back. That's how him and Superman are very, very similar with their optimism and their hope, and also having to hold back because they are pretty much these all-powerful beings. The Flash is also a character like Wonder Woman with a very rich history, obviously going back to Jay and all these Flashes. There are so many. The Flash family is so big, and it's so great to see. But there's always those two at the top, Barry and Wally, who outran death. That's insane. It's unbelievable. And I just love this character so much, and I really see the Flash as the fourth pillar of DC. And I've even had this conversation with Jeremy Adams when I met him at the Fan Expo in Denver. He also feels that the Flash is the fourth pillar of DC. Whenever there's a sacrifice play that needs to be made, look back at Crisis on Infinite Earths. Barry ran to save the multiverse, and it killed him, and he was dead for, 25-ish years until he came back. And then there's just been so much sacrifice from the different Flashes. Wally losing his family, Wally even finally losing control a little bit, not fully losing control, but he did lose it a little bit, and that was enough for many heroes to die. It's really crazy how powerful the Flash actually is, and his willingness to give his life to save the multiverse or the world. All right, that's going to be it for this video. If you guys did enjoy it, make sure you subscribe, drop a like here, and also let me know in the comments, do you think there is a fourth pillar for DC? And if so, who is it? I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.